Atheists, what do you believe in? Serious. I believe in a universe that doesn't care, and people that do. There is no plan, no grand design. There is what happens and how we respond to it. Justice only exists to the extent we create it. We can't count on supernatural justice to balance the scales in the afterlife, so we need to do the best we can to make it work out in the here and now. My life and the life of every other human being is something that was extremely unlikely. That makes it rare, precious, and worth preserving. Nothing outside of us assigns meaning to our lives. We have to create meaning for our lives ourselves. Theists argue that there is no point to life if you are not religious. I argue this is our one shot at life, and that makes it more valuable than the idea that there is another life waiting for us. Theists have the luxury of having purpose provided for them in their religion. Atheists have the responsibility to create it for themselves. This is something I've tried to explain to my religious friends. It's not that I don't want to believe in God, afterlife, divine justice, etc., it's that I don't believe. There's a difference. More power to any religious people who do believe in these things if it helps them get through life. Unless they're using their religion to justify harm, discomfort to others, which I know is not all religious people, but God if it is an allowed portion of them. What's the point of going through the motions of using my time, energy, and pretending to believe in something I frankly do not believe, when my time on this earth is so incredibly limited and all evidence points to it being the only one I got? Either I'm right and I maximize the one shot I get at existence, or I'm wrong and there is an afterlife, and if the creator of said afterlife is so petty that they ignore my actions all because I didn't worship them, then it wasn't a being worth worshipping in the first place, so what was the point of wasting my mortal life worshipping something objectively evil? This is exactly it. I live my life with virtue and consideration for others to the best of my ability. If my genuine attempt to be a good person is dismissed because I didn't pick a flavor of religious worship, then duck that God. And if you're wrong, and you meet God after life, He will look at your virtuous life and reward you accordingly. If He punishes you because you didn't worship Him enough, that's not a God worth worshipping. #duck that God. Sounds like a thing that just wants everyone to be a sycophant to it, doesn't it? That's why the Christian afterlife specifically is based on doublethink. On the one hand, heaven is for good people, but also it requires you to subjugate yourself to a being that you can't see, hear, feel or observe, and part of that subjugation is pretending that you can. If you tell a Christian that it's about subjugation, they'll say it's about being a good person. If you ask why good people can't go to heaven based on virtue, then they say how you must subjugate yourself. The whole be a good person thing is just marketing. At its core, Christianity is about subjugation. There's also this whole Christian way of thinking that revolves around the idea that we, as imperfect beings, have an imperfect notion of what true justice and fairness are. Personally, I don't see how I could enjoy a heaven that requires a hell in which perfectly fine people are suffering for all eternity because they didn't devote themselves to a religion. A devout Christian would tell me that this is due to my faulty, mortal-based understanding of fairness and justice. Realistically, I think nothing happens. We literally experience nothing after death. Same thing that we experience before birth. We don't exist, so it's nothing. I think the tenet that we should follow while living is to try to be happy and healthy while minimizing the damage we do to each other. What I would like to happen after death is whatever you believe in, exists. I think Christians should get to go to heaven if they truly believe in it, Hindus and Buddhists get reincarnated, and everyone else also gets to experience what they believe they will experience. I would still experience nothing. Maybe it's one of those things where at the moment of death their brain makes them experience what feels like an infinitely long moment in time where they experience their afterlife. I just think it would be neat for everybody. Nothing. Serious. I feel this way about death. When I was 5, my grandfather died and my cousin Simple said, "He is dead, that means you are gone forever." Everything ends up dying, even plants and animals. I'm now in my 40s and still have this simplistic view of life and death. People think I'm ambivalent to life and death, but it's just what it is. You're born. You live. You die. That's it. After you die you cease to exist, the same as before you were born. Just be a kind and empathetic person, not because you're worried about some cosmic justice, but because it's the right thing to do. If there is some being that created us, there is no way they actually care about believing in it or adhering to some rules from over 2,000 years ago. Also, a big thing for me is that I find the idea that you need religion or the Bible in order to have morals and ethics pretty dumb. It's pretty ducking clear that most evangelicals have neither. But my main thing is being a good person simply because, as George Costanza once said, we're living in a society. If you're only a good person in order to make it to heaven, you probably aren't actually a good and moral person. Live a good life. If there are gods and they are just, then they will not care how devout you have been, but will welcome you based on the virtues you have lived by. If there are gods, but unjust, then you should not want to worship them. If there are no gods, then you will be gone, but will have lived a noble life that will live on in the memories of your loved ones. Marcus Aurelius. This was always my argument at school. So if you're an atheist, but you devote your life to helping people, living a selfless life and caring for the environment, you go hell because you don't believe in Sky Daddy. But if you're a Christian and you're a horrible, greedy, selfish person who hurts people and destroys the environment, you go to heaven because you said, sorry Jesus, I believe in you. God, Jesus sounds like an asshole then, and honestly I'd rather go to hell if that's how it all works. I feel the same way, and when I explained this to my grandmother she told me I was wrong and insinuated I was going to hell lol. I have empathy for religious old folk, they were heavily indoctrinated. My grandma was a lovely lady, forced into a residential school, so she grew up very Catholic. She would have been devastated to know I'm not Catholic too, but I think she saw hell similarly to how she was beaten into believing God. That isn't her fault. When someone of my culture tries to convert me and won't take no for an answer, I like to say I don't want to believe in the God that tortured our people, and they shut up very quick and remember their parents or grandparents went to residential school too. The indoctrination is real. When my mom found out I was an atheist, she started sobbing and apologized for failing me as a mother because she legitimately believes she'll spend eternity in heaven with the rest of the family, but I won't be able to join them because I'm a non-believer. And this is how I know heaven isn't real. Supposedly it's a place where everything is perfect, no sadness, no pain. My mom believes and I do not, so according to the Bible, she'll go and I won't. The thing is, my mom loves me, and this separation would be detrimental to the woman I know and love as my mother. I don't know how she would cope. So in order for heaven to exist, she would have to have her memory erased, or at the very least, altered in some way which no longer included any of the time we shared. And that new version of my mom is not my mom at all. That is not a perfect place. That is some dystopian nightmare where lobotomized zombies reprogrammed robots potter about. If such a place exists, it's not heaven in any sense of the word. So if you want to say a place like that exists, it's not heaven. And I don't want to go. Myself. I've always been there for me. My wife's 3 rules of life: stay safe, have fun, don't be a dick. 1. Be human. 2. Breathe. 3. Don't lose socks. We need to look out for each other because help isn't coming. Atheism generally isn't a belief in the usual sense of the word. It's a lack of belief in a deity. You don't need reasons for not believing in something. You need reasons for believing. Not believing is the default position. When I was young, I used to think that after death you would have access to a PC that you could see absolutely anything about your life. Stats, any question you had no matter how obscure, replays of moments, perspectives of others in relation to you. No matter what you wanted to know, if it was relatable to you, you could see it. I know it's silly, but as time goes on I just want it to be real, and I don't think I'd have any issue allowing myself to fall into that delusion. Edit: why did pretty much all the replies to my comment get removed? Yeah. I want to see a game stats screen when I die. Amount of bubble gum chewed, red lights ran, ect. I would like a compilation video of all the times I narrowly avoided death without even noticing. Now you see, tying your shoelaces in 2012 actually saved you from a heart attack in 2039. Science, how dope nature is. More the reality that the scientific process allows us to understand. Truth is that which accurately reflects reality, and the scientific process is that which best allows us to find truth. We can arrive at truth through other means, but not reliably. Yeah, it always annoys somewhat that people say they believe in science because it makes science sound like a belief system based in faith, rather than the process of uncovering truths that it is.